right, so I'm going to be removing the intake first. I have taken out the fuel pump fuse, which is fuse 28. This is 30, 29, 28 is a 20A. Pull the fuse, start the car, let it run, idle until it dies. I went ahead and disconnected the battery because I have a new battery that I'm going to be putting in anyways. All right, in order to get the manifold off, there are quite a few steps that have to be gone through. So to start, there are 10 T30s that have to be taken out. There's 5 on this side, 5 on this side. That's what I'm going to be doing right now. All right, the last one on the passenger side is going to require an extension, so I'm going to get to that one here in a second, but I'm going to start on the driver's side now. I'm going to just start removing things out of the way. All right, let's see. There's this little brace right here. It holds the engine cover on. I don't have it on at the moment, but it's just 3 10mm bolts that hold it in place. Alright, that's out of the way now. Alright, wiring harness is mostly out of the way. Take this air box out. I've not put the screws back in here since I done the spark plugs, because I done the valve covers and the spark plugs. I was going to check and make sure, you know, it was not still leaking. Moving on, I'm disconnecting all the wiring stuff, just getting it out of the way. I am going to be removing or disconnecting the coolant reservoir, same as I done in the valve cover video. I have used a transfer pump and transferred most of the coolant to another container. That way it doesn't make such a mess. There's a screw right here that holds it into place. And then that hose has to be disconnected. So it doesn't make such a mess. There is the sensor on the bottom of this. I'm going to disconnect that so I have a little bit more room. And this can just sit over here out of the way. Now I'm going to be removing the intake. I have loosened this clamp. There we go. Sometimes those are a little trickier than other times. All right, there's that. There we go. That part's out. Filter out. Now maybe I have more room to get to this. Let's see. There is a vacuum line on the bottom end of this that I have to get off, as well as this little line right here. There is not much room. This hose just slides off, this connector, this hose. Next, I am going to be removing or disconnecting this vacuum hose down here. It's going to be really hard for me to get it on camera while I'm removing. So apologies in advance. All right, there was a zip tie that went through this part, and the hose fits like this. It's like an L shape, and the zip tie went this way to hold it securely. So whenever I put it back together, I will zip tie it back. This is the vacuum hose that I just disconnected. Next, I'm going to be removing the 4 bolts for the throttle body. So this has to come off, but this one, there's one down here and one right here. This is a 10, and it just holds this rail in place like that. Let's see what size these are. They are T30s. I have to find my socket wrench, which is right here. It is very helpful to have a set of long Torx. I got a set on Amazon. Super, super helpful. Gotta undo this hose for the PCV system. It's in the way. There we go. All right, throttle body is off. This is just a stud. So I'm gonna put all of these back where they go. That way I don't lose them, because I'll be taking off a ton of bolts and such. So, you know, better safe than sorry. That gasket's still in decent shape. Moving on. All right, with all that out of the way, I'm able to get to the last bolt that holds the intake in place. So that's what I'm taking out now. All right, as you can see, maybe this one is kind of stripped out. So I'll be ordering a new one of those to replace it before I put everything back together. Next, I have to disconnect the fuel system. I'll be disconnecting this line right here. I've got some clean rags, and as I showed at the beginning of the video, I have disconnected the fuel pump fuse. I let the car idle until it died, disconnected the battery because I'm going to be replacing it anyways. Open the gas door, the gas cap, whatever. So the fuel pressure in here should be not much, if any, because it's also been sitting for a few hours. So anyways, it's a 17 for here. So all that, took all the fuel pressure out. There wasn't gas that went everywhere. There's a little bit that has dripped onto the rag, and it does smell like gas in here now, but doing all that will ensure that you do not have fuel that sprays all over your engine bay. Next, I will be disconnecting that was the fuel supply line. I'll be disconnecting the lines that run here. Also gonna put this rag here just in case any fuel is to drip out. Of course, that one was a 17. The second one is not. I'm gonna guess it's a 15 or 14. comes some fuel out of this one. And just for safety, I am wearing a face shield, just in case anything decides to like spray me in the face. Okay, next I'll be disconnecting these fuel lines right here. Again, I'm going to move this. There's not really any way that I can soak up the gas if it is to spill out, but that one is disconnected. Next is this one. That's all disconnected. And then next, I'm going to be over here disconnecting these two lines. So again, if I didn't say, it is a 17 and a 14. And then I'll be removing the bolt from here. There's one here and one here. It's also a T30. All right, there's one of them. Here's the other one. All right, now the fuel lines are disconnected. Oops, let me get the residual fuel out of the line. Set this over here to the side. Next is pulling this vacuum line off the evap. Obviously easier said than done, that's for sure. All right, there we go. Right, next, I will be disconnecting this electrical connector right here. It's the same as the others. Like that. So there's a connector right here, and then there is one right here. I've got various picks that I'm going to use to try to get to it, so I can get those disconnected. Not a chance. I may just skip and see if I can get the intake off without removing those. We'll see. If not, obviously I'll come back to it. I'm removing these bolts for the engine lift hook right here. It's T45s. I put it on a breaker bar because the socket wrench just wasn't quite doing it. All right, that one's out of the way. And now I can get to this bolt down here that I couldn't get before. It's gonna be the same thing over here on the passenger side. It's gonna be this hook here, and there is one bolt right here. All right, that one's out. Okay, so these connectors down here do have to be removed, but I think if I can, getting it up and taking those off is gonna be a little bit easier than getting down in there where I literally can't see and have no room. There's a coolant hose right here. Here's the evap, it runs back. There's a Y connection that comes here. You can't really see it. Maybe you can now. This coolant hose has to be disconnected from right here. All right. Nope, nope, nope. Stop making a mess. Stop making a mess. All right. Everything's making a mess. That's disconnected. Next, I will be taking off this connector here. This is actually a little bit easier because the whole thing just kind of lifts up. Okay, this is messy. My goodness. Now that this is disconnected, it can go over to that side out of the way. I disconnected this side from the valve cover earlier. Now I'm going to disconnect this side. These things are always so difficult for me. Then I'll do the same thing here. Now this is out of the way. I'm going to try and keep gas from going absolutely everywhere. There is a connector here that I have to get off. All right, so to get the PCV valve off, it is a very, very tight space, like this big. I went to Lowe's and got this bit driver. I went to Menards and got this bit driver set. I also got this one from Lowe's. They're all super, super thin. I have paired together this one, which was like $15 at Lowe's, and used the T30 bit out of the one from Menards in order to get the PCV valve. Anyways, there is literally no way to get back here. I mean, we're talking 3 scrunched fingers wide without a bit driver of some sort. I tried all kinds of different setups, all kinds of, I mean, everything I have, everything was way too big. So this fits here beautifully. So that's what I'm using. I've got this one loosened. You can't really see because of all these hoses, but the bolt is right down there. All right, that one's out. Now, I'm not saying you need these exact tools, but you need something very similar to this to get to all these little bolts. And you also probably need relatively small hands. And just for comparison purposes, I got this earlier today. I thought it might work. It's just all the difference because the socket adds way too much. I got this one out. There is one just down over here that I'm not going to be able to show you. You'll just have to take my word for it. And it is starting to rain. So if you go here and feel back, like all the way down, there it is. And it is almost impossible to see back here. All right, here's the second one. And now the third one, let's see, is down here below the first one. Okay, it doesn't appear that this one has 3 screws. All right, I'm gonna take the oil filter housing off. So now I'm going to be working at the back of the engine. You can't really see. This would be passenger side. This would be driver's side. I'm going to be removing these bolts. All right. There is a coolant like flex line over here There's 2 bolts. There's one on the inside, one on the outside. I removed the one on the outside. I'm gonna do the same thing over on the driver's side. Let me see if maybe that gives me enough room. All right, and here is the one over on the driver's side. Now let's see how much wiggle room that gives me. Not much. Not much at all. All right, PCV is out of the way. Yeah, that definitely needed a new gasket. All right, let's see. Oh, if that's any sight into what the carbon situation is going to be, that is something. So, supposedly, lift up. Feel like I'm still caught on something. All right, I may be missing a T30 right here. Let's see. All right, see if that does anything different. Okay, so I have to remove this last piece in entirety. Yeah, I need something longer. Let's see. And there's one more hose on the bottom. Gotta go ahead and cover up the intake ports so nothing falls down in there. All right, now I can get to this vacuum hose down here. it's off. All right, that is how you remove the intake manifold on the B7 RS4. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, later.